Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Frequency Podcast. And I think I've said this many times, but I think this may be the episode I'm most excited for up to date. And with us today is HayaYasmeen. And I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I just want to share with you a little bit about why I invited her on the podcast because we didn't know each other before. And I found her on Instagram and I saw one of her posts in which she said, along the lines, I'm a Palestinian, I'm not a victim. And I saw this, I was like, ooh, we need to have a conversation. Because, of course, the whole victimhood conversation is so much what I work with because I don't believe we can be creators of our own reality and victims. I also have very close friends who are Palestinians. I am quite well informed about a Palestinian struggle. And I know how tender of a topic that is to talk about. And so when I saw that, I was like, right, we need to have this conversation. The world is ready for these conversations. So I am just so excited to bring this conversation to all of you, dear listeners. And I just have no doubt it's going to be phenomenal. So, HayaYasmeen, can you introduce yourself and share with our listeners about you, about your story, and maybe just to keep in mind that we likely have some listeners here who may not be as familiar with the Palestinian struggle. So to maybe just kind of like when you're talking about your story, keep that in mind and share maybe some more information around it if you deem it relevant. And if there's anything that I think we want to elaborate on, I'm going to also ask you if that's okay with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today and speak about this. Um, I think, as you said, I was born and raised in Palestine, in Jerusalem. And after I graduated high school, I had been traveling. I went to study abroad, and then I lived abroad. I lived in many different cities, over 6 different cities between the US, the UK, the UAE. And I'd always come back and visit home. But my childhood at home had been quite interesting, to say the least.
Aye.
I had parents that were had to be forced not to live together for many years. For about 30 years, we were denied reunification with my father because we simply are from different cities. My parents are from different cities. Dealt with a lot of traumatic experiences as a child here. And being on the land and on a land that is occupied, um, I grew up with this belief system that I am not wanted because it's a constant feeling of wanting you to get out. I grew up on checkpoints. I was in middle school to high school when the second Intifada happened, which is the uprising, where a lot of things started to get more intense. And going to school, I had to cross 2 checkpoints, and a trip that one day used to take us 20 minutes started taking us anywhere between 2, 3, 4, 6 hours, to assaults, getting stuck under gunfire,
Can
tear
you
gas.
share with our listeners a little bit more about what checkpoints are?
Yeah, so, I mean, checkpoints are just, let's think of East London, Central London, and then all of a sudden, overnight, a checkpoint is placed in between. It's a barrier put by the occupier. Um, the it, Israel is occupying Palestine, obviously, for those who are not as aware. And so these checkpoints started back then as blocks with soldiers standing on it with rifles. One soldier, 2 soldiers are holding the rifles facing you, and then another soldier is searching you, your ID, your bags, your body, etc. And funny enough, when my father first saw this, when it began, he was taking us to school and he saw that soldier and he looked and he said, he turned us around and took us back home. And he said, if this soldier sneezes, I could lose you. because you see them standing and their finger is literally on the trigger point. So after that, my parents decided to move us from the school we were going to, etc. But soon enough, we didn't last long in that other school. We said we want to go back to our schools. But anyways, that incident became a norm very soon after. And this is, to me, the biggest expression of how much we get used to things, and how much whenever something is introduced in Palestine in our life in the beginning is so atrocious and monstrous and insane to any mind or any human being, but then soon after it becomes normal. And this is what we've seen now in the genocide. It's like
Yeah.
in the beginning, everyone got shocked that they were bombing hospitals. Soon after, there wasn't one hospital left on the ground. In the beginning, everyone was shocked that they bombed the school, and they played that whole game on the minds of like, oh no, we didn't. And then soon after, all the schools were gone. So it's exactly this. We live in, it's kind of a testing ground to how much humans unfortunately get used to things. And whether we call it, we go into numbness, etc., we can get into that after. But to me, Palestine has been like that, and I've seen it become that, because we started with checkpoints that were roadblocks and a sniper. Now the checkpoints look like the worst jail cells. It's like we walk in very small corridors. I call them going to the slaughterhouse. Only one person can fit. It's all bulletproof. Soldiers sit behind bulletproof glass. It's all cameras taking pictures and videos of us all around. There's body searches. So it just keeps evolving to just keep pushing the limit. And they see that, the Western world, the Arab world, whatever it is, no one really has done anything or speaks against it. So they know that they can keep getting away with it. And I think this is where it comes back to the shift of why you saw the victim part, and the shift that's happened with me over the years is growing up here. It was always this want for the world to see us, for the
Yeah.
world, because it's like, if the world saw what's happening to us, no conscious mind will accept this and we will become free. As a child, that was my belief. I was like, as soon as they know, we will be free. And growing up, we didn't have social media. So for me, we knew that the media controlled everything, like the
Yeah.
news. And they were on their side and they were backing them, especially that the news back then was mostly American backed. So to, to me, that's where my dream to become an actress came to life, is crossing checkpoints. And I said, I want to start creating stories. I wanted to become a creator and an actress to tell these stories in a different way than politics, to show the world. And, I had all that spark and dream and went after it. Thankfully, had parents that supported it, went and studied theater abroad in the US, met people. I would always, educate my friends and they'll be so shocked, etc., etc., etc. And I kept feeling, okay, I'm making a difference by telling the world what we're living. Social media started coming up, all these things. But I think when I started having my spiritual awakening, and the crash that came down with it was, when all my the way I viewed the world came crashing down, was, oh, the world sees it all, especially post the genocide now, and it's still going on.
Yeah.
So that's when it was like that. Oh, this is not about the world knowing. This is not about the world seeing. This is not about showing them. This is about much deeper than that. This is more, this is about darkness and light. This is about what are we choosing on an individual level, and have we allowed this to go on for so long? And it's been a messy experience, because past me would think, yeah, protests are great. Now I think protests are a waste of time, because of how they're made. If we all go out and protest with the same intention, we're all aligned, we're all on the same wavelength, yes, I think protests would work. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So I started realizing that the real work has to start from within. Freeing ourselves has to start from within. And that's when the calling came to return home. And it was very clear, it was so clear I didn't have to check it with anyone, because for years I wanted to come back, but my traumas on the ground had been keeping me away. I would come back, I would get back into freeze mode, I would barely leave the house. Come back, see my family, couldn't wait to get out again. Come back, see the family, couldn't wait to get out again. And I couldn't explain it. I couldn't pinpoint it. I would reach a checkpoint, my whole body would go into
Wow.
fight or flight or panic. I would cross airports, I would go into panic. Also, just to note, the airport, we have certain ways of traveling. They're also controlled by the occupier and getting in and out of the country. And if we have to go through the airport, we have to go through their security system. And that is one of the most racially, based and very racist system. The minute you're an Arab, you go on a different line, you have a different treatment, you get searched differently. And of course, we are all here on the ground, know it and prepared for it. And I was sexually harassed in that airport my senior year of university, which is why I ended up doing a play about sexual harassments on in Tel Aviv airport. And I soon enough after I started writing that play, I found out that other women had faced the exact identical experience. Mine was my underwear. They said your underwear has something on it, so I called it. Another woman, it was her bra. So my bra is a security threat. That's what I kind of went with calling my play, but it's it's textbook. It's literally textbook. They leave you in a room for hours. You don't have your phone, you don't have a clock, you don't have anything. And they keep coming in and out, asking you the same questions to break you, different people, same questions. You say, I answered these questions. They're like, you have to answer them again. They start searching your body. They first take the first piece of clothing, second piece of clothing, come back, test it, feet. The way they search you, their fingertips go between your toes, on your belly button, inside your pants, under your bra. It's a whole system, and it's literally textbook because I've gone through it so many times, but it was that once where they had me literally stripped naked. So, all these experiences were experiences that were like, I don't, my body was in a state of I don't want to be there. Even though consciously I loved it, it's my home, it's where my family is, it's my childhood, but the body was constantly being like, get me the hell out of here.
Mm.
And until I started doing the work, until I went through all this, is when I was able to move back and live here after many years and see why I need to be here. And yeah, see that I want to heal even more and support my people find a way to live and heal and process and break that collective mentality that we are victims.
There are so many directions we could go into, but I want to ask you first, what was for you how did you start, let's call it doing the work? What made you start going down the path of healing, inner exploration? And then if you can share with us, what were some of the biggest things that you realized on that journey about how this experience shaped you and what did the healing process look like for you?
Mm. Um, if I am to be completely honest, I was offered, and now looking back at it, you're like, nothing is by chance. I was a TV presenter for a while, and we were supported by a coach that would help us become more comfortable on TV, live television, millions of people watching us, etc. And this coach was started working with me on deeper levels, on things that would happen in the office, other women, other experiences, And she started, planting the seeds. One time I had been bothered by a woman very much. She was very competitive, etc., all these things. And then she said, she's a reflection of you. She's just holding the mirror. And I'm like, and I got so insulted. I'm like, that woman? A reflection of me? Hell no. Sure enough, she was definitely a reflection of me, bless her. But, back then I had a lot of resistance, but she would plant seeds and she would explain. She's like, I'm not saying she's like you when you look at her now and you don't like her, but what in her, what is she trying to achieve, this woman that bugs you? And I would say it like she's trying to be too seen. She wants to be on TV and like no one wants her to be on TV. Just chill out, woman. And then she's like, okay, you also want to be seen. How do you want to be seen? So that coach started planting the seeds. And then afterwards, I had gone through a couple of major experiences in my life where I was in an abusive relationship. And it was for a couple of years. It started, it starts very subtle, verbal, emotional, etc. And then eventually when it got physical, I will never forget. I had this moment and I've never shared this, but I was standing in that room and I literally felt as if something from high up just came down on me and I was full calmness. And I
Mm,
just saw this vision of, I will not introduce abuse into my line of work. I just saw my grandmother, my mother, and myself. And I said, okay, if I forgive him again, he will continue this and I will bring kids into this world and this will continue. And it was so subtle, clear, calm. He was shocked of how calm I was in reaction. And I said, I'm done. But soon after, that was just a moment. Soon after, you go back to the old habits, the mind, the thinking, getting stuck in it, trying to get out of it. So I said I'll go on a break to visit my family. I arrive in Palestine, and the next day, I get attacked by the Israeli soldiers on a checkpoint. And it was, funny. Now I'm getting activated, which, I don't really, I've worked a lot through it, but I haven't really spoken about it much. But it was a life or death experience where they took me to imprison me and also, again, sexual assault, put a rifle on my mom, threatened me to strip naked, etc. And that was a huge, I think, turning point. And I remember that same coach who told me the mirror called to check up on me because it was all over the media. And she said something along the lines, she's one of the only people that knew, there were two people that knew about my abusive ex at the time. And she said, maybe you asked for this, or can you see that you asked for this? And again, it was like, this wild woman.
the audacity.
It's like, which I don't think, I wouldn't do it to someone who just
Yeah.
went through it now. There's different ways, but I guess I needed to be just awakened. Wake
Yeah.
up.
It's like a slap in the face kind of a
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who the hell would ask for this? No one would want to attract this.
Mm,
She's crazy. She doesn't get it. But sure enough, that is exactly, I was vibrating abuse. I
yeah.
was vibrating abuse. Um, so soon after, I met one of my teacher now, who is, an incredible human, who I started learning the subconscious mind, rewiring, rebirthing, healing, energy healing. I mean, I started being his. I didn't start studying it back then. I was just healing myself because I felt my whole world was crashing down. And at the time, he said, your belief system is crashing down, not your world is crashing down. So that's how I think, things started slowly happening. And I started realizing I'm done with the same pattern. I'm done
Mm,
with men who are abusive. I'm choosing this. I'm obviously choosing this. I started seeing, that pattern because unfortunately, somewhere I connected love with danger, and I connected love with a ticking bomb because of my parents' story of being stripped apart. We couldn't see my dad. Well, like whenever we want to see my dad, we'll just go rush, go see him for a couple hours, then leave. He can't cross check when come see us. We can't go see him. My parents were, they were very in love, but they couldn't be together. Checkpoints, daily abuse on checkpoints, etc. So it was like, a mix. It was always vibrating this intensity growing up here. So yeah, when I started seeing it, when I started deciding I don't want this anymore, just life started throwing all up the opportunities as it does, when you start wanting to heal, life will send you and support you in figuring it out or seeing it the way you should see it. And it's been a journey. Some days I say, some days I speak about it and I forget to mention that the work is not easy, but I also don't like to stick to that belief system of it's not easy. But, people think, oh, that word healed is thrown around so easily. And like I said, now, the story I've been working on for 4 years that happened to me. And today, now, a charge came up, and that's okay. And that's normal. We're just human. But it's also being able to see and rest in awareness and notice what's coming up and what's happening. And yeah, then, yoga came along. I decided to quit my corporate job. I decided to exit that matrix world because when you start doing that work, you start seeing everything for what it is and you can't unsee it. So you can't keep fooling yourself. I tried for a
Yeah.
bit and I was like, nope. And yeah, I did my first 200-hour training. I then, continued into traditional hatha yoga. Offered a very similar um, perspective to the healing through energy and subconscious mind, etc. Work I was doing and connecting to our higher selves. And yeah, now I use, and somatics was also a way that helped me immensely in the beginning, which I really loved because I think the thing is about Palestinians on the ground is when you meet them, you don't think they're traumatized people. And this is one of the most beautiful thing about us is we are still able to live, to laugh, to find joy, to continue. But unfortunately, what many don't see, and I hadn't seen before, is we hold so much inside. We're so proud as people. We're not people that want to be broken. We want to live. We don't want to, succumb to this oppression and dehumanization that's happening on the daily. So, but we end up suppressing so much that it ends up coming out in sicknesses, in addictions, in same patterns, loops, in, not taking charge and control. And that's what ends up making us give in to that victim mentality and to start blaming everything on the occupation because it's taken so much from us. It's taken so much of our agency, of our control on our own lives. And it's been years of programming and working on the subconscious more than the conscious mind that we forget or we don't see it. So this is one of the main reasons I wanted to return because I see it more clearly now than I did. And I feel we all deserve to start seeing it and understanding it than staying in the loop of wanting the West to see us, wanting everyone to see us. And if they see us, they'll save us. Also, that savior complex. Come save us when we just got to save ourselves first.
When you're now working with other Palestinians on the ground, how do you speak about these things? How are you perceived? Can you go out there and say, we're not victims? Or is that something that's very challenging? Because this is as you said before, right, when your coach said to you, are you attracting this? Like, are you asking for abuse? There is a time and place to introduce these ideas. And I
Mm-hmm.
know for me, right, when I started my own healing journey, if I said those things to myself, like I would have probably punched myself in the face, right? Things I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
today. Because I would have had the same things. Like, what do you mean I created this? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you communicate with other Palestinians on the ground? What does it actually take
Mm-hmm.
to help someone heal in this kind of environment with this kind of history?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think one of the main things is what's beautiful about here is every day is a surprise, and every client is different. Every client has met themselves. You know how we say you're only able to meet yourself as far as to meet others as far as they've gone, and I really see it here because some are more open, and I think this is where I try to see how far can I push. I mean, I did share it on Instagram. I'm not afraid to share it. Some people it lands with them, some it doesn't, but I wouldn't go out and say it publicly in rooms that I know it will be frowned upon. And I do hold back on some things, like the idea of I don't know if we should go much into it, but the idea of seeing the enemy between brackets as
Mhm.
human. I do hold on that. Maybe that will be for another podcast some other day. So I don't but it's actually what has freed me. It's actually what has made me get on that checkpoint and not get into the monster's about to kill me. Oh my gosh.
Mm,
You know? It's like,
mm,
oh, your job sucks, man. You've been in this checkpoint since 6 a.m. So when I started like removing all that charge, it's like, okay, what are you going to do to me? What's the worst thing that you can do to me? And I've already experienced a lot of the worst things. Most of us have. So it's like, okay. So the more we give it charge, the more the charge will return, which I know you are aware of that. But I think working with people here, people would surprise you. And people have been surprising me. Like a lot of people were saying, oh, people are not aware of yoga, which has been lovely because I'm not coming into a space that teaches all those crazy types of yoga and then I'm introducing hatha and understand I'm coming as one of the first and it's like, oh great, they don't have this idea of puppy yoga or vinyasa. Wire your mind, get your nervous system off with the wires and then get them back into calmness. So actually that's been nice to have. uh, but people are open, people want to try, people want to heal, people want to breathe, and people are realizing we're not breathing. People are seeing how, because we're looking at our parents. So, for instance, my grandmother has seen a Palestine prior to the Israeli occupation. So, for us, we're the third generation. She saw it being taken over, and then my mother lived through it, and then myself and my father's side. But now we're seeing the effects on our parents' generation. Our generation is like, okay, wait a second. Do you want this? So, and even my mother's generation, they're also starting to realize, okay, what next? What now? Because it's been such a loop for so long. But yeah, I mean, I work differently. I firstly give them agency and support in them seeing that they are the creators of their life. This is a huge one to start introducing and understanding and to start breaking that cycle of blame and the savior. I want someone to come save me because I had it myself. And when we're stuck in that victimhood, we give ourselves that carte blanche for so much, so much. So I think my work is to just start empowering us as individuals versus anything else. And who doesn't want to become empowered as an individual? Who doesn't want to become more at peace with themselves? No one. So I think it's just how I do it. It's person by person. And then in my yoga classes, it's just giving them tools to calm their nervous system because we are all pretty much wired here on a daily.
How is it, because there is such a big difference, and this is something we had a conversation, we touched on briefly in our conversation before, like last week, before jumping on this podcast. And in a lot of the somatics and nervous system space, there is this idea that you need to be in this safe space
Hmm.
to regulate the system.
Yeah.
And sounds phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
I've believed that to actually be bullshit for a long time, because like it just, like, for so many reasons, and I don't want to talk about this now, but obviously this is a very, very different thing, right?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
are in Palestine, like if you have whatever's been now going on, I mean, yeah, since 2023, but really for 75 plus years, right?
Yeah.
And are we now going to say, like, oh, well, everybody who's there cannot benefit at all from nervous
Exactly.
system tools and all of that? So I would love to hear your take on that as someone who works, who lives there,
Hmm.
works with people on the ground, and has education and training in that.
Hmm. 100%. Like you said, when we chatted prior, this was told to me when I started doing somatics, and I had been in and out. And my coach at the time said, I can help you, just get back into stability when you're there and just to support you, but to heal, it's when you leave again. Like, and I always had this mindset, oh, okay, so in Palestine I can't heal, I'll just keep myself regulated, find ways to regulate myself, do the comfort food, the comfort this, and then
Mm.
when I leave, I'll keep working deeper on my, healing. And then when I came back and I looked around, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what do you mean? You're telling, oh, let's get all of Palestine out, heal them, then bring them back. It's like, that doesn't make sense. So, yeah, it definitely didn't resonate. In the beginning, it did, but then I was like, no, it doesn't align. And it doesn't align with the work I want to do. And it also, I think, limits us. It's part of keeping us stuck to that healing, leaning on a healer, leaning on, oh, only when I'm in this space I can figure it out, only when I'm here and here it can work. No, the whole idea is wherever you are, if there is a soldier holding a gun to your head, you can connect to your higher consciousness and come back to stability and to connect to that higher self of you that has chosen this moment.
Mm.
And I know this can sound crazy to some, but I know it's possible. And I've heard stories of it, I've seen it, and it's just as simple as, why do some people, if we're not to compare it to, situations here, why do some people survive freak accidents where you're like, oh my gosh, how did they survive it, versus others don't?
Yeah.
And it's how strong you, it's how meant, you know yeah, you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
so in that sense, I started finding my own way. A friend of mine said, Haya, sure, the somatic teachers are teaching, but they never lived your life. And I loved when she said that. She's like, none of them lived a Palestinian life, none of them have grown up under occupation, none of them have studied and gone through what you've gone through. So create your own modality. And at the time, I'm like, are you kidding me? Who am I to create my own modality? I'm studying with Gabor Mate. I'm, listening to Peter Levine. They're the creators of somatics. I was like, okay, but they created it from a place of trauma as well. They created it as a response for themselves. So I that's what I did. I love so many of the somatic teachings. I think it's very important to connect to the body, especially that we're with how disconnected we are today, not just in Palestine, everywhere. And also as Arab women, I started noticing the disconnection we have with our bodies because of years of conditioning, years of belief systems, traditions, etc. Um, So now I work more of the connection of safety within the body, no matter where you are. And it's, yeah. So finding ways to find safety in the body and mind, no matter where you're at. And that's real work. That's real resilience. That's the work we want. We're already living here. We're already living and functioning in danger. I'm just wanting you to live, function, and be more sensitive and connected and aligned as you're doing that. So it is possible to heal in this place. It's harder. Of course, it's harder. Um, in many ways, I see the resistance as well to it, but it is possible. And it's kind of like, in family systems, when your family are your biggest mirrors. They show you all the things you need to work on, and you can either choose to leave them and not live with them and bounce, and just when you visit, all these things keep coming up and you just suppress them until the next family lunch, or you look at it in the face and you're like, okay, what are you telling me, and how am I going to diffuse all these pressure points to become a person where it's like, okay, I see you, I recognize what I feel, and I'm still safe and I'm still in charge of my own life and reactions.
I love this because this is obviously like a much less maybe intense topic, but I see all over our culture right now in the spiritual community this idea of cut your family off,
Mm,
and there may be situations in which this is the only way, but a lot of the time I see it as an avoidance mechanism to actually not have to deal with the pain and the wounding that is there and that your family is going to trigger more than anything else. And I certainly saw for myself, after coming back home to my home country after 11 years,
mhm,
about 6 months ago, and I literally just moved into my new place yesterday, so I was with my family for about 6 months,
mhm,
and I was in awe of how
mhm,
incredible our relationships became from what used to be constant fighting.
mhm,
And it's really this proof of how when you do the work, when you
mhm.
change your own, we call it vibration, belief
Yes,
systems, whatever it is, the world rearranges. The world
yes.
rearranges. And so for me as well, with these questions of, what's happening in the Levant, in Palestine,
Mm,
I always was in like these two different like minds about it, because on the one hand I'm like, this is so fucked up. Like this
mhm,
is so fucked up, and witnessing that, and it will keep being fucked up until the end of time, because
mm,
the level of monstrosity that is being tolerated,
mm,
especially from the side of countries and organizations who promote
mm,
themselves as democracy bringing, freedom
mhm,
bringing, caring about human rights. I mean, it's textbook hypocrisy, right?
mhm,
And then on the other hand, understanding the laws of the universe, understanding the law of vibration, there's also just the knowing that, well, there are karmic agreements, there are frequency matches going on. And the only way to truly shift that is to change the underlying frequency
mhm,
patterns.
mhm,
So I would love, and at the beginning, you said something that I want to bring back into this and then tie it to where we're at now with this conversation. You said that you saw it as this, maybe, I don't know if you use the word fight, correct me if you use something else, but between light and dark.
mhm,
And I would love to hear you speak about, how do you, after all the healing you've done, everything you've learned, how do you now see the situation that is unfolding in Palestine from the higher perspective?
mm,
How do you think about it?
mm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, when you change, the world changes around you, and I couldn't agree with it more. Saying it to some one of my clients actually recently, I said that to her. I mean, I said that to her when we first started working together, and she just came back saying, "Oh wow, I get you now." And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see because once you are less attached to an outcome, for me, for years, I wanted something from my father. For years. I asked for it. I insisted on it. I insisted on the outcome, how it should look like, why it should be that way. Why doesn't he give it to me in this way? It's so unfair, etc., etc. the minute I released it, the minute I did the work on it, and I was free of it, it was like magic, Alja. Like, I can't even explain to you. It was kind of like, whoa, wait, is this really happening? Am I imagining? He gave it to me on a gold platter, not a silver,
Yeah. Yeah.
by himself, by himself, without me saying anything. So really, when your frequency, and I compare it the most to relationships because people really connect to that the most. I always say, when you like a guy and you're obsessing about him, he never wants you back.
Yep.
But when you like a guy and you're okay, oh, he's cute, he passed by, you go back to your life, or you just saw him once and forgot about him and went back to the one you're obsessing about, and he shows up and he comes back and he's like, okay, I want you. So it's as simple as that. Energy works in that way. And I wish we can all just start seeing it and understanding it more, because it's at the source. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
You can like attracts like. So yeah. So I definitely, and I think this is how also here about seeing it from that perspective. There's two things. Number one, the minute I release the charge, and my frequency and energetic field became less intense, less angry, less resentful, less charged, because I had all that growing up. You took away my father from me. You took away my home. You took away my childhood. You took away my memories. You took away, you harassed me, you did all this. That has so much negative charge. That has so much, it's stuck energy. That's like keeps building, 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 building. And of course, I started attracting all these incidents because it had to come out somewhere. It had to confirm that all these things I believe, that they're the enemy, that they're horrible, that they had to be manifested and show me, yeah, it's true. You believe this? Here you go. The universe kept giving me experiences to confirm all these things I believed. So the minute I shifted that, the minute my energy changed, and I still remember it was before I moved here, I started doing the work, and I did a test. And I remember my teacher at the time said, let me know how it goes. I got on the car and I went back to the same checkpoint I would cross as a child that had brought up so much for me. And I sat in that car and I crossed through, and there was not one activation in my body, zero. And it was party day. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is possible. The first time I experienced that checkpoint without any charge. Again, doesn't mean it might not come back tomorrow because of the state I'm in or but if it comes up, it's not from that same place it used to come up, where that vengeance, that hate, that all what they want us to become. They want us to be that, because being that will keep us stuck and will keep us weak. And this is what I think about when it comes to darkness and light. In the face of darkness, we need to become the most vibrant, light, joyful, excited about life that we can in order to crush that darkness. And, when that darkness gets so big, which it is now, which I hope, as my mom says, it has to become like a monster to pop. So now, hopefully, it's reaching that popping stage, because that monster has become immense the past years through the
Yeah.
genocide, plus the 70 plus years. And I think I finally understand what that means, because it's science. When you put darkness with darkness, it'll just give you more darkness. But when you face that darkness with light, you will eventually, whatever it is, there will be, even if it's sprinkles of light right now, even if it's, small glitters of light in that experience, there's still light. You're still bringing light. And it's the same thing of how I look at, because there's this thin line of peace, light, and love. When the genocide started, of course, I think a lot of us started seeing that whole wellness space for what it is. and what a
Yeah.
sham it is, and what a joke a lot of it is it's like, oh, you keep telling me about looking internal and loving, and all of a sudden, and now when the biggest atrocity is happening in our face, the biggest reflection of that darkness, none of you open your mouths and you want to bring peace, light, and love. That's actually bringing in more darkness than anything else
Yeah.
to me.
That's
That's
the archonic inversion, and it's really so fucked up, and then all of a sudden you're seeing the biggest monstrosities, and it's complicated.
yes.
And it's
Yeah.
nuanced. And it's the I remember just looking at all these big names in the spiritual
Mm-hmm.
industry and them being silent or spewing some bullshit. I'm like, what is complex about a
Mm-hmm.
hospital being bombed? What is complex about
Mm-hmm.
children being sniped? Like, are
Yeah.
you insane? And that was one person after the other. Yeah, it showed us the exact colors of this industry so clearly.
Exactly. And it's also important to point out that that's not what peace, light, and love is. What peace, light, and love is sitting here, recognizing that this occupier, this, is trying to ethnically cleanse everyone that looks like me, that has been doing this for years, and doing all these things and recognizing this darkness, but also choosing not to play the game of darkness and choosing light. And I say it, and I will always say it, everyone who claims to be healer, worker, space, yoga teacher, etc., needs to choose a side.
Yes.
There's a saying, um so if you're indifferent, I forgot it in this moment, but indifferent in situations of conflict, then you're on the side of the oppressor. If you're indifferent in the quote, but it's technically saying if you're indifferent in a situation like this, then you're taking the side of the oppressor.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it.
It is
And
because you're allowing this to keep going.
yeah.
It's and this is I think this is like I've been recently diving more, into the Gnostic texts and like the archonic energy and understanding where these inversions happen, where it's like you cannot like it's the universe of duality. You have to choose a side. But then what's happened in this inversion is so fascinating to me because what's been done is that you give people false because I think we all have the darkness and the light inside of us.
Hmm.
So we intuitively understand that you have to pick one or the other. And if in
Hmm.
like the linear time scale, you always can pick only one option at a time. So you're
Hmm.
always choosing one versus the other. So we have all this intuitive understanding, but then the synthetic grid, the matrix, the archonic grid, whatever we want to call it, the darkness gave us to choose between two darkness points. And most
Hmm.
people make choices between that. And so they're making choices, Republican versus Democrat, blue
Yeah.
versus red, which
Which
actually
is still
all
part
has
of the
dark.
same. Yeah.
It's all the same. It all has archonic energy
Yeah.
siphoning and energy behind it. And
Yeah.
then they think they're making a choice. And then that became inverted into the whole, oh, then don't choose a side at all, which is like, no, 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 no. Like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
understanding the frequency, the intention. Is it life taking or life giving? But
Yeah.
this is the deeper understanding that is so severely lacking. Unfortunately, also in the very industry that is supposed to be teaching us about
Yes.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100%. It's the same thing as I say now, I don't watch the news. And some family members joke that you're in La La Land. I was like, no. If you're watching CNN or you're watching Democracy Now, it's the same. It's the
It's the
same
same
thing. It's
shit.
just they're just on different, steps.
Yeah.
It's under the same umbrella, of keeping us stuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. It's like, no, but I'm watching this channel or this person, and sometimes people say, okay, what's the solution? But I think it will course correct eventually, because yes, right now we're seeing the extremes of darkness and light, and even people who are choosing sides, sometimes even on the pro-Palestinian side, in my opinion, are choosing it also from a place of aggression and
Yes.
from a place with that
Yeah.
frequency. So in my opinion, we lose so much when we go from that side. But at the same time, I don't care. Allow my people to express themselves because they haven't been able for years. It'll course
Exactly.
correct.
Yeah.
Versus the other side who's been working in that way for ages. And I think is much bigger than what we just see in the 3D world of what they've been doing and what they've been instilling in all of us.
I want to open one more conversation here, and this may be the part that we edit out if you wanted to
Okay.
edit out. So one of the things that I work with, and I worked with Palestinian people, I've worked with Lebanese people. And when I work with theta healing, right,
Mm,
what we go back to is why was the situation co-created?
mm,
And oftentimes we have to look at very deep ancestral karmic
mhm,
co-creations. A lot of the
mhm,
time, religious programming is involved. There's a lot
mhm,
going on. But I'm wondering, have you ever explored that element on what is
mm.
playing out karmically and energetically between Palestine and Israel?
Listen, I've played out on a personal level more than collective because sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming. I mean, not a personal level as just Haya, but like as a community. Because yes, I do think there's a whole thing that's being played out, but sometimes that's me personally. I have colleagues or friends that have gone into that. For me, I feel it's not as important into healing the now. I am
Mhm.
now in this present moment, but I do accept it. I do see it. I do sense into it. I do feel into it sometimes. And to answer your question on a personal level, I do understand that I've chosen to come as a Palestinian and experience this life. I do believe that we've all chosen to be those people, whether the people
Yeah.
in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, in Gaza, why and how each one of us are playing these roles. This has all been chosen for a reason. And there is a bigger picture behind that, for sure. I see that now more clearly. And, even our belief systems, I'm not wanted, I'm not seen, I'm not recognized, etc., is all part of that whole uh that whole picture of I chose this belief system and to play out the first, etc., years of my life through that as a Palestinian on this land. And this is what made it possible for me to come back and to live here is
Mm.
that I actually did choose this. I'm not a victim again. I didn't, because for years one time I remember we were young, I was in the kitchen with my older brother and I look at him, I was like, oh, I wish we were born Swiss. Imagine. I was really like, I never forget how much I really wished to have been born white from Switzerland, living in the mountains. and, and he looked at me and he said, but that would be boring, Haya, wouldn't it? And I looked at him and I was like, maybe.
Too little trauma.
So, today I'm like, I don't wish anything. I know that my soul chose this. I understand why it chose this. And I understand why I chose to come back now and make peace with all that and not resent life or the universe or God for giving me this life and staying in that victim mentality of woe is me, why me, why me.
I think how many people, actively choose to stay in victimhood in situations with what we could call so much more privilege. And then seeing that really, irregardless of the external circumstance, there are always
Mhm,
people who can reconnect with the truth of
mm,
the higher truth, and irrespective of their circumstance, choose that view. Because I know it myself to be possible. And at the same time, I'm always very cautious, making claims and statements about people who are in situations that I have never ever touched myself.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
having someone like you on this podcast speaking about this is just like I'm just so grateful we get to have this conversation.
Me too, honestly. It's the first time I'm opening up about a lot of these things publicly. I mean, I speak about them in my small forums and groups and community, but I appreciate you for opening up the space for me to share this because, sometimes when you do this work and you're on this path, you forget that it can be very different or very, you know, courageous or very foreign to some people. And I think, I don't like to use as much the word dehumanized, but it is in fact the easy word for people to understand is we've been so dehumanized and we've been put in so many boxes for so many years that there's so much misinformation about people on the ground. And I'm not saying that choosing this mindset is easy or I don't know what I'm trying to say is it's much more complex and layered than people see it for what it is when you're on the ground. And I would say this when I was in college in the US, I kept saying you will only get it when you visit. You will only get it when you visit. Because no matter how much I tell you or how much I explain, the experience here on the ground, even myself, some days I am like shocked by it or surprised by it. Like recently, there's a whole new thing on the ground here where Israel started painting the town with their flags
Mm,
everywhere you go, to the point, talk about subconscious and wiring, and to the point they've always had their flags around their Independence Day, which is our first genocide in history, 1948. Say they celebrate it as their independence. We mourn it as our Nakba, which our catastrophe. Um, so we grew up used to, especially in Jerusalem, which is occupied by them, and more the north, the areas they took and claim it to be Israel today. The flags go up around their Independence Day, and there's some flags on governmental buildings. The past couple of years, and now recently, just the last couple of months, the flags are everywhere, Alia. Like if I tell you on West Bank roads, on Palestinian roads, and I'm going to send you a video after. It's like you're driving and there's poles in the ground. It's nature. Around you is just mountains of nature, but then there's poles with all their flags everywhere, on highways, in the fields, on the mountains, on buildings, on roundabouts. I'm like, wow, you are that threatened? You are that weak? And some would say it and be like, oh, they're strong and all that. And oh, look at them. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, poor you. You are really, who does that? If you think about it,
it's like
who
when you
does
have
that?
a guy who's trying way too hard.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
Who
the
does that?
same vibe.
Exactly. Which country? I've traveled the world. My last job was literally traveling the world. I've been to, you know, so many different countries. I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen that. I've never seen that.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, who are you? Who, us? You're trying to tell, who are you trying to tell? What are you trying to do?
And it's
So,
so interesting because it's actually it's signifying how much they don't belong there. It's signifying how like the level of insecurity is. Like I used to have a boss, at work who needed people in her lab. She was the lab leader
yeah.
to sit down and say in front of the administration that she is the boss. And so people will listen to
Exactly.
her. And
Exactly.
I was like, yeah, if you're actually a leader, you don't need to do this. Like
Yeah.
with love. And this is such a similar vibe to that.
Yeah. But this is the difficult work is growing up, seeing that flag. It's all kinds of triggers.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and this pain and this hurt and this how, and what about us and our flag? And why can it's illegal, by the way, to raise our flag in Palestine. We cannot raise our flag.
Yeah.
And if we're found with it, we are thrown in prison,
Does the
or tortured
watermelon
or
signal?
shot or etc. Exactly. Now even the watermelon. That's what the
Even
watermelon was a
even in
response.
Germany, you're now an
Yeah.
anti-Semite if you have a watermelon on your
Imagine,
t-shirt,
imagine a
like,
fruit. I told them if the fruit has become a threat, you see how shaky and how weak they are,
fragile.
how fragile.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so it's choosing with that pain, choosing to see that as well. And this is what I hope to bring more to my people. Is it's like, okay, I see the hurt. I see the frustration. Why do I need to look at your flag all through? And it's like, I keep doing this thing, kachang, like my yoga teacher taught me. It's like, remove it from your brain, remove it, remove it. And I
Yeah.
start, envisioning, I start my creation. It's like all Palestinian flags, bubbly, rainbows, beauty. It's not there. But seeing those two and being like, okay, I want this today. And that
Yeah.
body, even somatically, I'm so much more calmer when I start envisioning them as our flags, or start envisioning beauty, or start envisioning rainbows, or Powerpuff Girls running through and removing all these Israeli flags. And I just like dance with it because, we're on the roads for many hours or stuck on checkpoints staring at them. But yeah, you just have to daily, even in those small happenings that happen every day that no one talks about, just keep practicing coming back and understanding and reconnecting and realigning, because they are running out of ways. And I think this is one of their ways now with this. But yeah, you know, what's truth will always prevail,
Yeah.
light will always prevail. One of my favorite things my mother has told me when I was younger, we were driving past areas that they had built malls and buildings, hospitals. And I said, Mama, how are they going to leave? Like, look how invested they are. Because we grew up on the hope Palestine will be free all our life. We will be free. And I still believe we will be free. I believe we are able to make ourselves free in this moment right now as well. But she looked at me, she's like, every colony has fallen, every oppression, every, has fallen. Yes, it might not be in our luck that it's in the first 80 years, 90 years,
Yeah.
but I do believe light will prevail eventually.
And
And
to
yeah.
me, like, looking at it energetically, Israel is they are, energetically speaking, a parasitic consciousness form, which is
Mm,
right now a huge, huge, huge theme that's getting
mhm,
cleansed out big time.
mhm,
So it will
mhm,
pull. Uh,
mhm.
how, when, how, where, like how that's gonna look, we're going to see. But that frequency form is it's getting weaker and weaker by the
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. And
I
I
just
hope
like
we
this
will see it.
conversation is like nourishing my soul. I just have to say, like, it's incredible. Okay, so before we wrap up, I want you to talk to us about what is next. What is your big vision? What are you looking to? What is your mission in Palestine, and how are
Mm,
you building this? And then you can tell us also about how we can support you with that.
Amazing. Thank you. Um, So my vision to return, as I said, came very clearly. I packed up my whole life after being abroad for 14 plus years, in and out. But yeah, since college, I had been out. And this week is my 2-year anniversary of being back.
Wow.
But I had a vision. I asked my teacher that I mentioned at the time, in the beginning, and I said, there's a poll. It's very clear. I need to go home, but can you support me in understanding why? And he said, you're meant to go back to continue this journey and to support others in doing so. And it was within the first couple months of returning, I was walking around my grandparents' home, who are no longer with us today. And I just had that vision of, I want to create a space for my community where they can be themselves, where they can feel safe, where they can return to, whether it is women who need support or are facing abuse in their households or on the grander scheme, because unfortunately living in an abusive place, now we're starting to see the effects and how abuse is manifesting itself in family systems here, which wasn't as present. And or whether people want to just have a space to breathe, to connect to each other, safety. And yeah, so I have a vision, which is to create a web of healers and practitioners on the ground in Palestine, to have a space to practice, and to hold space for others, and to hopefully start hosting my friends and teachers and coaches and healers that I've met along this journey around the world, to come and share their expertise and their you know, uh, teachings to the people on the ground, which I know so many are very passionate in doing that. And of course, you are also more than welcome, once that comes to life, to
I would
come visit
love
us
to. I would love
and,
to.
meet the people and be with the people. And it's, it's just to empower people, to have a space for people here. Because one of the things in the last couple of years that I learned and saw is there's so much work on awareness for the outer, whether it's in media, films, forums, trips, educational, but we're forgetting that those who need the most support and work and commitment are those on the ground who are holding the fort. They are the ones holding the fort for all that to exist abroad. So it's about bringing all that energy back into the land and to the people on the ground, to give them more hope, because a lot of it has been closed off for the past couple of years, and hope is becoming more of a word than a vision for many. So I am currently fundraising for that vision. I started small with family and friends, but the link is in my bio. And if you have any more information or you'd like to support in any way, and I say, it's not just financial support that we're looking for. We're looking for anything you can offer. If you can offer your time, we will take it. If you can offer your expertise, if you can offer your support in doing sessions even online with people on the ground, if you can offer your technical skills, your design skills, it's all welcome, because we need anything and everything. And it's exactly about that, building a community that supports one another, and from here outward, versus starting out and keeping it out. So it's to start here and to build more resilience and more nervous system regulation and more individual empowerment on the ground.
You have an incredible soul mission. I have to say, I have just so much respect, admiration, and honestly, like awe for the work you're doing. I remember when this genocide was going on, and I was very active in Germany, but I
Mm,
just remember thinking about exactly this. I'm like, how are we going to get, like, all hands on deck? How are we going to provide healing in those spaces? Because this is
mhm,
going to be such an important, essential thing to happen if we ever want to exit all
mhm,
of these loops of suffering. And
mhm,
lo and behold, today I'm here talking to a
mhm.
person who's doing exactly that. And I cannot wait to share this with people on my platforms, how they can get involved, how they can support you, they can support this movement, because this is what light workers are here actually to do. And
Mhm.
I am just like so grateful that you came on here. And of course, we're going to put all the links in the show notes, links to your social media platform, so everybody can find you, connect with you, and support you and your people.
Thank you. I'm also grateful for you. And like we say in this work, nothing is by coincidence.
No,
So us speaking
absolutely not.
today is not by coincidence. And yeah, it's beautiful to connect with you. Even, when you reached out and I went on your profile, I'm like, wow, so much is, when you see similarities, I saw so many similarities in the way of how we see things or speak, even though, different parts of the world. And this is what's beautiful about this work, is to start recognizing each other's as souls, and less of these titles and these definitions that we're so attached to, and this identity that we're so attached to, that we forget what who we are in essence.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what is
So
really
thank you.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Thank
Exactly.
Is there anything you would like to share with the listeners before we wrap this up?
Um, just thank you for your time, and I think keep being curious. Keep being curious about yourself, and keep being gentle with yourself throughout this journey. Some days, you feel you're on top of the world, and some days you feel you're at rock bottom, but it's a feeling and it will pass. And as long as we're all somehow connected, we can change the world. And you're never alone. One of my favorite things is you're never alone on this journey. And this is proof of it. This us being speaking here and sharing this with the world.
HayaYasmeen, thank you so much for coming on here today. I am sure we're going to do more episodes in the future, and I just cannot wait to see your work and how it keeps evolving and how you keep serving so many people.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you in Palestine soon. We're
Me
waiting for
too.
you.
I
Next
have been
episode here,
waiting for
maybe.
that. Let's make
Yeah.
it happen. All
Yes.
right.
All right.
Thank you
Take care.
everybody for tuning
Thank you.
in. Bye bye.
Bye.